Let me pull up this story from the Daily Mail. Check this one out. JFK director Oliver Stone says he made a mistake voting for Joe Biden in 2020 because he fears president will start World War III with his support for Ukraine. There you go. He said, quote, if we don't stop this, what Biden is doing, this guy, I voted for him. I made a mistake. I was thinking he was an old man now and that he would calm down, that he would be more mellow and so forth. I didn't see that at all. I see a man who maybe is not in charge of his own administration. Who knows? It seems that he's dragging us stupidly into a confrontation with a power that is not going to give. This is their borders. This is their world. This is NATO going into Ukraine. This is their whole other story. He's right. Imagine what would happen if China went into Mexico and took large portions of its government and started putting troops and sending weapons. The U.S. would go nuts.
I just saw, the U.S.
and we did.
Because there's literally, I just saw a tweet by someone that was talking about Chinese police stations here in the U.S. policing the Chinese
biolabs.
Biolabs and stuff here in the U.S. I don't think that the American people, I really think that as much as there are people that complain a lot on the internet and stuff, I really think that Americans are way too comfortable to get really, really buck wild in like some kind of revolutionary way. They'll get out in the streets and they'll, throw rocks and stuff and throw Molotovs and try and get into fights with the police. But that's only the most mentally questionable or at risk, if you want to call them that, people. The average your average person has, even the people that have it bad have it better than most humans in human history. I just don't see the revolutionary energy that.
What's your point though with China? You just mean like the fact that people are not angry about that?
There's Chinese. There's talking about building a Chinese listening post in Cuba. There's actual Chinese, I guess, government police that are policing Chinese. Former Chinese citizens or whatever
and the
that
biolab
are
thing
in the
just
US,
came out with COVID mice and HIV.
And China's done the same thing in Canada. They violated, if the United States actually took the Monroe Doctrine seriously anymore, there would be at least some type of retaliation between all this stuff that we talked about that we mentioned in the past 5 minutes or whatever, and the spy balloon that went over and stuff. I understand that most libertarians are like, we shouldn't be looking for problems with other countries, and I agree. When you got a country sending a police force into your borders and policing citizens of your country from a foreign country, I get it that you're anti-war libertarians, but hey, at some point the actual sovereignty of your country matters. Even if you have open borders.
Well, so I agree, and I get like we should be moderately upset about those things, but I think on the scale of like, I agree there's no revolutionary energy, but like I'm way more concerned about like this war we're talking about, what Roger Stone's talking about blowing up the world. Like if there's a Chinese police station in my local city, that is pretty weird and concerning, but I'm much more concerned with like my president potentially being blackmailed by Ukraine and then therefore looping me into a nuclear war that could literally kill me one day. That's where the revolutionary energy needs to be focused. And I agree there's a lack of it.
It could simply be blackmail. That Hunter Biden's on the board of Burisma, Devin Archer calls DC, says we want the prosecutor fired. The elites in the oligarchs, the people in Ukraine know exactly what Joe Biden did. And then they call him up and say, we're going to spill the beans unless you give us what we want.
Yeah, no, I've like gamed that out in my head as well. I think it could exactly be that. And it's just crazy. And, we should all come together as a country and just say, Joe, whatever they got on you, it's totally fine. We're not going to judge. Let the blackmail come out. I'd much rather see a naked photo of Joe. And like
it's not that. Well, it's going to be evidence. It's going to be felonies.
Right.
It's
I know.
Multiple.
I was going to say with
sedition.
a kid. I was going to say like a naked photo of him with a kid. But like, just let that come out and just end the war, man. It's more important.
Support pardoning Joe Biden?
To end the war?
Yeah. Or just in general. Yeah. Just even preemptively with no expectation of anything after. Would you?
I don't. Just for no reason?
Assuming that there's stuff is going to come out later is why my reason would be, but would you do it not with any expectation or like tit for tat, just be like, no.
Would I do it right now, hoping like the war, hoping there is blackmail and hoping the war ends?
Or for any reason, would you be
Yes, I would. Yes.
For any reason.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I would do it for that reason.
I think
But,
that's why I
but he's
talk about
asking
mass
if you would straight
pardons.
pardon him for no reason.
Well, you're not really. I can't tell if you're saying no reason. I mean, if there's no reason,
I'm not as concerned with the reason. I'm just asking if you would do it. If you would just say you're pardoned.
there are reasons where I would do it, and that was one of them. But
If you have,
I think of it as like
evidence-
5D chess. All these pardons that we got to do. I see no other way forward.
if you have
Just like you mean
evidence of him
pardoning
doing
so that-
wrong,
so-
no, you
yeah.
have a tribunal. If we know for a fact that he was engaged in illicit activities, then he is criminally charged. If you have no need to pardon him, if you have the pardoning power, you simply just indict him.
You could do that, indict and then pardon him,
Why would you pardon him?
so that we don't have this tit for tat. So that in the next generation they
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
come back
Okay,
for you.
yes.
Hunter's sister doesn't come back with guns ablaze. You know, you don't want to just keep the cycle moving.
Hunter's sister.
Yeah,
I mean, I
whoever.
wouldn't be worried about that, but yeah, I agree
Ridiculous.
in terms of
Yeah.
like. I mean,
I don't agree with the idea that by allowing elite criminals to get away with their crimes, you actually stop the crime.
Well, what you do want to do is expose them and make the world know what they did, but then pardon them.
But if
for
they,
it.
if
Let me
you
tell
expose
you-
them and the world knows what they did, and then you pardon them, that is not going to disincentivize people from doing the same in the future.
I don't know if anything can disincentivize it.
Yeah, all the incentives are in their favor.
Guillotines.
Well,
Yeah, but
that didn't work well in the French Revolution because, like, who's in control of the guillotine? Like, who's deciding?
The guy ultimately got his head cut off.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Robespierre.
That's right. Not just him, but, you know,
There is the threat
He
of
was a
force.
crazy-
I mean, the threat of force is usually the go-to. Like, how do you stop corrupt leaders from being corrupt?
if it's
Threat of
seditious
force,
and if
but,
it's
like,
treason, there's varying degrees of punishment. But,
But
I think
hold on, I think on some level you can, like, it's not only, doesn't only have to be punishment. And I guess, Ian, what you might be getting at is like, you can appeal. I imagine in theory, like, you can appeal to the humanity of these people. Like, I know, like, you know, Lindsey Graham to me does not seem like a guy who has much humanity in him. Joe Biden, I mean, that hugely brazen, corrupt kind of that mafia display is awful. But like when you also listen to that clip of him, remember when that clip of him came out of like a voicemail on Hunter's phone, and he's like, "Son, I love you. You know, we'll get over this drug addiction or whatever." To me, that sounded like a dad who loved his son. So I think
that's naive.
it's naive to think like I can like tap into that humanity of Joe Biden's, but I'm just saying it's there, and he feels love for his son. But yeah, and maybe there is some way to tap into that. Like I don't know if that's what you're getting at with the pardons, but
Pardons won't solve it. So
I'm just saying I hope
need a
Joe Biden
cultural
wakes up one
shift.
day and says like, God, you know, I do have these grandchildren, and like I don't want to blow up the war. What? I don't want to blow up the world because I want my grandchildren to live a nice life. I hope that deep down he's thinking something like that. I'm not going to bank on it, but I'm hoping it's there, that sentiment.
no, I think he's more thinking, I will burn the world to the ground before I lose power.
You think Biden thinks that way?
I think he thinks to a certain degree that way. I don't think he's the most ruthless guy ever. He's a bit of he's just a corrupt guy. But these people tend to have an attitude. I should say this: corrupt individuals are corrupt because their attitude is usually the whole world will burn before I lose.
I don't know if he's that strong of an asshole. But you've heard like the "nobody fucks with a Biden" hot mic quote from him.
No, when was that?
I forget. I think it might have been at that DeSantis presser he had. But,
You guys really think he thinks that much at all?
well, that's another.
Look, just
that's-
because he's
that's another
old now
point.
doesn't mean he did not build his life and his family off of
course.
these ideas that he will take whatever he wants.
Right.
This is look. You wonder why it is almost every politician is a bad person. It's because good people don't have what it takes to manipulate everyone around them to
Right.
gain political power.
Right, that's a good point. And I do have that naive streak in me because I got to be honest. So before I was into politics, like during the COVID era, I barely read the news at all, and I liked Anthony Fauci. Like I would watch the news and I was like, you know, I kind of like this guy. I like his raspy voice. He's kind of charismatic.
Disavow.
And recently I read The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy, and it was mind blowing to see like when you learn about everything in that book, from the whole like AIDS pandemic and how like the chemo drug that they were prescribing was basically causing AIDS or making it way worse.
AZT.
AZT, and him experimenting on orphans, like killing hundreds of orphan children and debilitating many more. When you realize that guy can go on TV and like smooth talk the entire world, smooth talk, like it's kind of what Tim is saying, and it's like Jesus, like that's a level of like psychopath that I can't even imagine.
Indeed.
Must you think like the psychopath to defeat the psychopath?
Yeah, there's the one thing that I want to say is like you talk a lot about like forgiveness and stuff like that, and I am so, like I said earlier, like I'm so black-pilled about even being able to communicate with people. It's such, and it just struck me that like you're still looking for ways to to expect good behavior from people, or to offer people the option of behaving well, and I just don't think that they're gonna.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. Not really obsessed. Ben Franklin is a big inspiration, and that guy always had like a twinkle in his eye and kind of a knowing smile, like we already won. So he was like a diplomat to
Ben
the
Franklin
enemy.
did?
Yeah, Ben. He knew the whole time. He was like the father of the rebellion, the father of the United States. Essentially, like everyone looked up to him as this old dude.
How do you know he had a twinkle in his eye? Did people write that down?
I in the pictures I've seen of him, and I think maybe they do. They talk about
paintings?
him. He was just the paintings and the stuff. He's so jovial, and he's an inventor. He's a brilliant, and like he knew his morale was so high. I think he just instilled the morale of a nation with his books and his communication style. So hopefully people can do that.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.